Oh yeah, there you go.
All right, perfect. All right,
How are you?
good, good. And how's it going? Were you in the land of blues and rock these days?
Very good, very good. How are you doing?
Not bad, not bad. Also, Garnet Grimm from Savoy Brown. It's a pleasure to
Yeah,
have you here. The band
thank you.
names has a reputation of greatness, and
Yeah,
from throughout the years with all the legendary band members, I'm sure for you, it's an honor to be representing the band now.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. By the time I met Kim, he had already had a storied history and was well accomplished. The band had done many records before I joined the band. I met Kim in 1999. I it was I was invited by a mutual friend to do a recording session that had nothing to do with Savoy Brown. It was a solo project that Kim was doing, and ironically, when I got there, Pat DeSalvo was on bass, but playing bass that day, and so the three of us really struck up a friendship that day, and it lasted all the way till Kim's just recent passing, of course, in December. So yeah, it was really a great friendship we had for all those years. And Pat and I were, I'd like to, I'm happy to say Pat and I were, I believe, the longest running rhythm section that the band ever had. Kim's had a lot of people in and out of the band, but we this last incarnation of the band was a good one. It was sturdy and held together like glue from our friendship, I believe. So we were all on the same page.
That's something that's so interesting. Like you look at the, let's say historical lineups for any group in that sense, and it only lasts like 4 or 5 years at max.
Right? Yeah,
And then
usually
also,
short.
yeah, and then all of a sudden we arrive in the period of, the 21st century, and it's like everything's going good, and like look at the band Kiss. They've been playing with the same lineup now for over 20 years. Also,
Yeah.
so it's what do you say about that? It's something in the air. I don't know. It's interesting.
Well, I think that what happens is, that's a little bit of a complicated question, and it's hard to answer in a short answer. But I think some of it has to do, especially with people maturing. With us, the three of us, all of our bad boy days were behind us. For us, it was about the music and friendships and enjoying our instruments and playing together. There was no drugs, no alcohol.
Right.
All of that stuff was gone, and we were all family people. We had wives, children. So I think a lot of it has to do with that. Youth brings on youth can bring on some tough times. So I think a lot of those guys you're mentioning, Kiss and Savoy Brown, and uh, a lot of these bands that let's call them legacy acts. A lot of those bands are staying together longer with and running with longer bandmates because I think they finally understood the mechanisms that make it work. The balance of business and fun and business and travel and stuff like that. So
I think that's correct, and also the word you said maturing, earlier is like, yeah, it makes sense now. We just got
yeah.
to think of it like that. Yeah. So we're talking about blues all round. The latest album, has been
Yeah.
released, in February 2023. When you look even at Savoy Brown's history, you guys, releasing an album almost every year,
Yes.
and there's another one, and I mean, Kim is gone, and
Yes.
how amazing is that?
Yeah.
Good.
Kim really, you know, I'm just stunned by the amount of music that he could produce. It was incredible to be around. Um, Pat DeSalvo and I were fortunate to be with Kim at a time where he was super productive, and And he, you know, in the old days, you would have to send demos in the mail, or we rehearsed quite a bit. So we rehearsed when we weren't on the road. We rehearsed every Thursday. So out at Kim's place. So uh, Kim would Kim would send us, demos via email, and sometimes he'd send me four of them in 1 week, and he'd say at the beginning of the week and say, "Hey, listen to these. What do you think?" And then we would get to rehearsal on Thursday, and I'd say, "Yeah, well, I like this one, and I listened to that one. Oh, forget about that. What about this one?" He'll have one. He'll have a whole new one there. So
Yeah.
it was like that with him. He would get up in the morning, and he sort of treated his writing and his art like you would a 9 to 5 business. He would often get up in the morning, have a cup of coffee or tea, and head out to the studio and start writing. And he that's how he did it. And he was incredible. He just had a great command, not only of his instrument, but he had a great command of the English language. And I always find that is really interesting, that those two often go together, especially with rock and roll and blues. I always find that people who can write often have a strong, um, they're able to write words. They have a strong command of the English language, even if it's, secular language where it's slang or whatever, but they know how to make rhymes and make words make sense, and that was definitely Kim.
And to be productive like that, and to write songs that easily, and is and to be strong with the language, let's say. Imagine the amount of books you read, to get different inspirations, let's say, and
Yeah,
I don't know, like stuff like that, because it's like you have to write stories also in your head. You got to have
right.
imagination. So
Yeah, and he was like that. I mean, he often read. He listened a lot. He was a lover of old movies in particular, and some of that early artwork, especially that you would see with the band, like Looking In and uh, Howbound Train, and those kinds of covers often came from his love of movies or comics back in the day. So I remember him saying that to us a couple of times, that yeah, we were, when he was a kid, there was a lot of comics, and some of them had these, you know overemphasized heads or something. And so, and they that's how some, like, Looking In came about, or Street Corner Talk, and that kind of thing. So
because
I know
that's
that was cool.
when you do look at the Savoy Brown records, they the artwork don't really match the name of the band, in a sense. When certainly when you go to the late early '70s,
Right.
it's interesting artwork, and then
Yeah.
it's like, is this a psychedelic rock band, or is it, you know?
Yeah. Well, I think they got caught up in that, right? I mean,
Yeah.
they started out as a blues band, really. I mean, the first recording was, they were billed as Savoy Brown Blues Band, I believe, and I don't think that record was released in the U.S. But uh, as time went on, of course, I mean, Kim was kind of in that pioneer group. I would consider the pioneer group a little bit younger than, say, Eric Clapton and Jeff Beck and um, the Canned Heat guys, but definitely a pioneer in that blues rock thing where it was kind of fusing together. So the music was getting edgier, and uh, the artwork was getting a little edgier. So yeah, it was. If you look at an album like Jack the Toad, I mean, it's very creative, but it's not a real bluesy album. I mean,
Mm.
the stuff we've done lately, I mean, he really went back to his blues roots in the last, I'd say, 20 years. He's really leaned more on still in the rock. There's a lot of rockin' songs, but it was you could definitely tell he was going back to what he loved, which was the blues, you know.
And let's go back, blues all around the latest album. I took a good listen to it, and it's got like super blues, early blues in this. And I mean, there's even some sort of styles that you hear ZZ Top doing sometimes, and
Yep. Yeah.
these songs, and just you can't go wrong with blues, I don't think, because it's a language of music that always stays around.
Yeah. Well, you're right. It's a strong music and it's kind of it's a very durable music and it's a foundational music. What I mean by that is, there's a you know, country, rock and roll, R&B, there's a even metal really. It's all kind of resting on that blues foundation. They've just taken it and they've taken it in some really far directions, and that lets you know one how durable it is and how versatile the music is. I mean, really, it's incredible when you think a lot of the changes, most of the changes in blues, right? It's 1 4 5, and you got 12 notes, but but the possibilities are endless. They just when you hear somebody solo sometimes like Kim, you think, wow, what planet is he on, man? He's just like he's pulling stuff out from somewhere else, and
Yeah.
so it's incredible how blues really is the foundation for a lot of the music we listen to today. I mean, you could be in a you could be in a blues band and do a country kind of tune and still would be blues, or a funk tune, it would still be blues. But if you were in a funk band and you did a slow blues, they'd think you were weird, right?
Yeah.
Your audience would go, "What's going on here?" You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, so that's cool.
Garnet, let's say you as a drummer, has your style changed a lot throughout the years, and certainly in Savoy Brown, because the song
Yeah.
structures are a certain way. You're playing the back catalog, and you're just learning all the time.
Yes. Yeah, my playing has changed quite a bit, for a couple of reasons. One, when you're younger, I think you want to show the world how much chops you have and how fast you can play.
Right.
So so sometimes you end up doing things that are sort of inappropriate. When Savoy Brown's a blues rock band, and one of my primary uh, jobs was to hold it down, hold it together, and so I had to learn how to really groove, maybe simplify things. It's kind of funny. The more simpler sometimes I played, the more effective the groove was and the more effective the music was, because I think it provided a good format for Kim to play over. Pat and I, of course, had to play together as a rhythm section, and we did that very well. So, we spent a lot of time working and listening to each other. So we always provided a good support uh, background, a support network that the solo instruments can uh, play over. I think that's a very important point to make in blues rock music, really any music. But if I was going to talk to a young kid, I would say, hey, learn how to stay home, learn how to play a groove. And then, Kim always gave us time to shine. Kim always gave Pat and I solo sections in the live show where we could solo and show the world our what we have. But he wanted you to play the music, and so that's definitely one thing. And I think that also comes with maturity. That's another maturing kind of aspect to it.
How was it recording the album, and mixing it and mastering it up to the complete final product?
Yeah. Well, this one was a lot different. Anytime in the last, I mean, anytime I've recorded with Kim, we've always recorded live as a band. We always rehearsed the songs. We went in and we banged it out. And I do think that the nature of our of the business, the nature of our band was just that. You're an organic unit,
Right.
and when you're all three are there, that's awesome. But this time around, Kim wasn't feeling 100%. We knew that. He didn't feel like he could spend long, long hours in the studio. So uh, what happened was he sent demos to all of us, including Ron Keck at Subcat Studios, where we were going to record. And he wanted us to listen to his demos. That he had narrowed them down to the songs he thought that he wanted for the record. So we studied them a bit, and Kim went in ahead of us, did some vocal tracks, did some guitar stuff, and like that. And then Pat and I went in together, separate from Kim, and we played over those demos. And I had some reservations at first. I thought, wow, we've never done this before. I don't know how this is going to work for our band. So, um, but I have to say it worked beautifully, and we ended up with a good product. And it gave me a different perspective of the music. You get a different feel for the music that way. I still think I'd prefer to, with a blues rock trio, I think I'd prefer to record live, but it just wasn't able to be done at that point. So, the next day, we spent 2 days in the studio, just with the basic tracks. The second day, Kim came in, gave us some advice and some instructions, and listened to what we did. And he added some keyboard parts at that point, and so yeah, so
Mhm.
it worked out great. But it was different. We had to build the ground. I like to say, we had to build this one from the ground up. Instead of like boom hitting it head on.
Completely different way of recording, and
Yeah,
it's good that you've got the experience to do it, and
yeah, yeah,
something
yeah.
can.
Pat and I played together for so long. I think that when you play together for a long time, a band plays together for a long time, you start to get intuitions about the other players, and I really feel that that's what helped us in that situation. We were able to play those tracks that way, and we felt relatively comfortable because of how long we had been together. So.
Right. So now, what is the future? What does the future hold for Savoy Brown?
Savoy. Well, I, okay, so first of all, uh, I think there's enough uh, juice in the tank. I think there's enough gas in the tank maybe to do some more, another Savoy Brown album, at least another one. Kim left a lot of music. Some of the music is nearly done. Of course, there needs to be some work, but I like to think there's another record out there, and there's a lot of things being done right now to keep the legacy alive. Debbie, Kim's wife, she is doing a lot with the website to keep it up and running. Also, Kim's daughter, Eve, the two, Debbie and Eve, are doing a lot of work together with social media, working with Quarto Records to see what we can do in the future. Um, so Kim has a dear friend who's always done his Facebook and social media. So there's a lot of people on Team Savoy Brown that are trying to keep the ball rolling. So I wouldn't count the band down and out just now. There's a lot more to come. I think there's more things to be done in the future. It's not over. It's a little early to talk about tribute shows. A few people have asked about that. I think Kim passed in December. Here we are in March. It's still a little raw for people. It's hard to think about that right now. So, I mean, that would be great. I hope it happens. I hope we can do some shows down the road, tribute shows, have some real special guests. There was a lot of people that Kim influenced.
Yeah.
Um, it's unbelievable the people that I've run into with Kim sometimes in the past that people would just say, "Wow, I used to, we ran into the guitar player with Paul Rogers one time. We did a show several years ago with him, and the guitar player used to be with Hart, and he came up to us and he said, "Hey, you're Kim Simmonds," and Kim said, "Yeah," and they were talking for a bit, and he said, I used to, I used to skip school to go see you at the Whiskey A Go Go in L.A. And so it was just amazing the amount of people that you talk to that he influenced. So I would love to get some of those guys to do a tribute show. That would be awesome, So, but who knows? We'll see how it goes down the road.
Well, don't never forget Dave Walker is still around and all that. So,
That's right, Dave Walker. Yeah, yeah.
but
I think Chris Yulden's still around in England somewhere. So yeah.
anything's possible, and realize how big Kim's circle was, to influence people. So it's like any little community, throughout the world. The world's a big place, so
Yeah,
the music traveled.
yeah,
I mean,
definitely.
I'm in Nova Scotia, Canada, and I own a lot of Savoy Brown records.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
just
That's
managed to get
awesome.
here.
That's
Yeah.
wonderful. Yeah. Yeah, well, and Kim and Savoy Brown, it was never lost on me with my time in the band that I was playing the gigs that I was able to play with Savoy Brown because of Kim's hard work and the band's hard work. People that did work before I got there, a long time before I got there. So, there was when Kim was really, when the band was really pounding the pavement in the 60s, 70s, and into the 80s, I mean, it was way before MTV and YouTube and all of these sources that came along later. I mean, they were on the road, those guys. They were
Yeah.
road dogs. So, I mean, when you talk about the world being a big place, I mean, he traveled it several times over, and picked up a lot of fans along the way and musicians who appreciated him. So
Yeah.
it's amazing to see. I'm very grateful for the time I got to spend with him, and really, really grateful that I became friends with him. It was such a blessing for me. To call him a friend. We lived not too far from each other, so we saw each other frequently, and we were friends on and off the road, and it was great. So I'm very grateful for all of that. So yeah,
Well, Garnet Grimm, I really appreciate you taking the time talking about this new album with Kim Simmonds. It's awesome, and just keep on doing what you have to, for Savoy Brown. I love it.
yeah, man. Thank you. Thanks so much for having me, Jason. I really appreciate it.
All right. Well, you have a wonderful day and a great week.
Yeah, you as well.
All
What
right.
time is it in Nova Scotia? You guys got your own time zone.
Atlantic time.
Yeah.
So we're 5:23 right now.
Ah, okay. All
Yeah.
right.
Getting close to supper time.
All right. You guys have a good day. All right. Thank
Right.
you.
Bye.
Bye.